Father, just help us as we're hopefully getting toward the end of this pandemic, and just help people as they go back to work, and be with those that are less fortunate and don't have a job now, and can't pay the rent, can't pay the utilities, and some of them don't even have food. And we just ask that you would just bless this country, and hopefully pretty soon it'll be back to normal, and everybody will have a job, and everybody will be healthy, and we'll just be moving forward. Help us be good stewards, Father, with the funds that we have, and help us to always try to glorify you and always say and do it. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
We'll move to the approval section. The first item is minutes from the April 15th, 2020 Facilities Committee meeting.
Make a motion to approve the minutes as presented.
I'll second.
There's a motion and a second. All in favor? Motion carries 3-0. Next item is a contract award for the engineering services for the Water and Sewer Master Plan update. Mr. Burrs.
Yes, sir. We submitted RFP for consideration back in early April, received 5 proposals from consulting firms to update our master plan. The most recent update was done in 2016. It was concerned both our rehab and expansion plans. We've maybe not done them in the exact order, but we've knocked out the vast majority of the 5-year worth of rehab plans. And we have been thinking about updating this due to some changing and some population projections. So we've got 8 tasks outlined here that we intend to do with this contract. The highest scoring firm was Four Waters Engineering. They are the ones that did the last master plan. So they have a lot of that information already ready. They just have to update the population and flow projections that we have. I've just talked to them about it, and they can get started the first week of June and would have a presentation by the end of the year to the commission on the outcomes. And then 2 things additional on this that we have not had done in the past as part of the master plan are Task 6 and Task 8. Task 6 is a cash flow needs forecast. Essentially, they're going to go year by year and give us a cash flow needs for capital purposes for the projects. And then Task 8 says delivery of master plan and project database. The project database will be a database delivered with every project in the master plan, including unit cost and flow projections that will be adjustable by staff once we receive this, so we can update the plan as real conditions occur. Couple of things on this. The original budget for this project was $125,000. It came in almost double that on the cost of this, and this was the lowest cost option that was presented to us. So we recommend awarding this to Four Waters Engineering. There was a 5-person scoring team, and they did get the highest score. And then if we do award for the full amount, we request that we adjust the budget to the $247,500 as presented to pull that out of the uncommitted R&R balance. We held interviews with all 5 proposers. Every member of the scoring team was able to ask questions for clarifications, and every member of the scoring team is comfortable moving forward with Four Waters.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
On Task 8, the delivery of the master plan in a database, did that happen last time, or it didn't come electronically, it was on paper?
We had a few paper copies, and it did come electronically. The request here for the delivery of the plan, there will be 10 hard copies of the full plan, 10 hard copies of an executive summary, and then the project database, which we did not have last time.
Okay, so the database, and then that'll be ours, and then we can go ahead and use it, utilize it, and change it as our conditions.
That's correct, yes, sir.
Okay, so that's a really big asset right there.
So the database would be delivered in February on their current schedule. So they present it and hopefully get it approved in December or early January, and then they would build that database once it's approved to move forward and deliver to us by the end of February.
One more question. On our population projections, where do we get that information from?
Well, there's been recent population projections done on the Glynn County and City of Brunswick comprehensive plans that were updated in 2018. There's also BATS, Brunswick Area Traffic Study, Transportation Study data that they use. So likely we'll be using the numbers put out by Glynn County and the City of Brunswick since they just updated their plan 2 years ago.
So you kind of gather all that together and
That-
make the, okay.
That's correct, and the last time we did this, those population numbers by the city and the county hadn't been updated in a few years. The growth since that, the growth since that time has not met the expectations, so our expectations would be that the plan would be much smaller given the population projections we're seeing now versus what was done the last time we had the plan.
Hopefully, the city and the county will have a better fix on how growth is going to occur.
They both put out very good comprehensive plans that have good land use maps, and we have a good working relationship with their planning departments, and I think it'll be a smooth process for us. And they will be members at the table from their groups in this process.
Well, that's good. I don't think they were. I don't know about the city, but I don't think the county wanted to
Say what?
participate heavily.
What?
Participated
Oh.
in the last time we did this.
Got a question. This is an update that to our master plan?
Yes, sir. It's an update with the population projection changes. The
Right.
expansion portion is going to be basically brand new. The
So who-
rehab plan may be similar.
Who did the original? I mean,
Four Waters did the original.
oh, they did, so they just, okay. A couple of tasks, they didn't complete, that's what we're looking at?
Those
now?
are new tasks that we did not ask them to complete last time. So we're adding that to that. Hopefully, if we get this database done and it's successful, we won't have to go back every 5 years to get them to do the plan. We can update that every year in-house with what we're seeing.
Okay.
All right, you ready for the motion, Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Okay. I move that the Facilities Committee recommend increasing the budget amount for Project 2024 and awarding the contract for the water and wastewater master plan update to Four Waters Engineering in the amount of $247,500.
I'll second. Motion and second. Any other questions? Hearing none, all in favor? Motion carries 3-0. And that'll be presented to the full commission tomorrow.
Yes, sir. And it will be presented to the Finance Committee at 3 o'clock.
Next item is change order number 1, Splice North Mainland Phase 3 Rehab Engineering. Mr. Burris.
Yes, sir. This item was presented at the April meeting, but we've come back with some changes to this. At that time, we indicated that there were some proposed design changes that had recently come about. You now all have maps of this. There's one at the bottom that says Ogden Drive Sewer Force Main Reroute that Ms. Meredith passed out. You can see the green dashed line coming from the north is the existing force main route that's in there. There's a 20-inch HDPE force main there. Connects to the solid green line coming down Ogden Drive. That is gravity sewer. The proposed original routing of this would be to come down Old Jessup and turn down by the canal by Driftwood Mobile Home Park and add about 2,200 additional linear feet to the force main work. We went back and looked at the gravity sections. We believe there's sufficient room to put in additional capacity for gravity sections there and pull that flow down Ogden, which will eliminate a crossing under the canal and a railroad crossing that we would have to do. So the design change order before you for the SPLOST portion of this is $44,800 to redo these and get the easements necessary for the new route and the increase in the gravity sections. However, with the changes, we're expecting to save over $200,000 with the new design plan. Also in here is a change order for Canal Road. It's a separate project, but the force main project is coming down Canal Road, and we have a water main project to include. At that time, since they're in there digging and disturbing, we only wanted to do it once. So we have requested Thomas and Hutton to design that water main and do all the survey work. So there is a request in here for $36,000 for that water main work to be included. That water main work will be paid for out of the water main project budget and will not come out of the SPOS budget. So the overall request for the change order is for $80,000 to do increased surveying, change in design, and some additional bid phase services. Since we put this out for bid, pulled it down, we're going to have to rebid it, so additional bid phase services by the contractor, by the developer, engineer, sorry. But you can see we're knocking, instead of an 850-foot a run from 22,000, so you're saving 1,400 feet of pipe by doing it this way.
Does everybody understand what we're talking about?
Not exactly.
Not exactly, okay. If you see the north arrow coming down Canal Road at the very top right of the map, there's a dashed green line that comes down and then goes north on Old Jessup Road and then turns again down Ogden. That is the existing 20-inch force main route that was put in during the canal crossing development. Currently, we have 2 pump stations in that area that pump through that force main. We are redirecting the flow from pump station 4110 down Harry Driggers into that existing line. The red dashed line shows the original proposed route that was bid out. It went down there, that big open area in between the houses and the trailer park is the canal.
It was not bid out, it was proposed by the engineering firm.
We put it out for bid, we just didn't take bids on it, we pulled it back
Okay,
down.
Okay, right.
So it went down and it was gonna come under the canal and then we'd have to cross under the railroad again with this force main and then dump the flow into the manhole right outside of the pump station 4036 at the bottom left.
So that was gonna have a canal crossing plus a railroad crossing.
Right.
And to top that off, at the last facilities meeting, we were told we had to have a change order up, and where the 20-inch goes up Canal Road, we're gonna have to eliminate some of that and come down diagonally across property and get property up there because of all the utilities in Old
Right.
Jessup Highway that the county was not gonna allow us to put the line in Old Jessup Highway, along Old Jessup Highway. So that's eliminating that, but what they were proposing was gonna be eliminating a lot of 20-inch force main that the commission put in about 4 years ago, I guess, coming from Sam's all the way down. So this will be using the existing line all the way. You'll be eliminating both a canal crossing and a railroad crossing, and we'll be redoing the 8-inch line down Ogden and tying into the existing sewer. So will be a substantial savings for that particular change order. And this is more in line with what the original plan was when we first put the 20-inch line in.
Yes, sir. This was the original plan 5-6 years ago. We had an error in a survey completed on a manhole depth that caused us to believe there was a reverse grade in the gravity section that once we re-examined did not exist, so we were able to reutilize this route.
So in short, this project's going to reduce our overall capital construction cost for this engineering cost increase. So doing this revision is going to be a savings overall in the project.
Yes, sir. We project at a minimum we'll save a couple $100,000 from this change for the $44,000 change order. The water main portion is separate. We would have to do that separately anyway, but we probably are saving some money by doing it now just because we're only gonna have one contractor in there doing it instead of having to mobilize multiple times.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to move that the Facilities Committee recommend approval of change order number 1 to North Mainland Phase 3 engineering contract in the amount of $80,800 to the full commission.
Second.
Motion and second. Any other questions? Hearing none, all in favor? Motion carries 3-0. Next item is infrastructure and easement dedications and deeds. Mr. Klein.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. we go. Good afternoon, Commissioners. This is, agenda item is for easements and dedications, and it's a result of, a couple of these are cleanup items that's in our list, our ongoing list of ownership parcel dedications, and a few of these are also the result from private development activities where once it's the developer's done installing infrastructure to serve their needs, they dedicate the portions that are within right-of-ways, et cetera, or easements to us for ownership to the joint water. I can walk through these, I'm happy to do that, or if the commission's had a chance to take a look. There's supporting documents for each one. Some of them are just simple conveyance documents, and then some of them are a record drawing or map maybe attached to kind of give you an idea of what it is. Not really anything of major note in here, fairly routine, but I'm certainly happy to answer any questions.
3 of these are dedications of existing pump stations that we're cleaning up. We had a list of pump stations that never properly got transferred, so that's 3 more of these that we're already maintaining, we just never did the deed paperwork on.
I'll offer the motion, Mr. Chairman. I make a motion that the Facilities Committee recommend that the full commission review and approve the documents supporting the acceptance of infrastructure for 1, pump station 4010, 2, pump station 4134, 3, pump station 4122, 4, Menendez Force Main Extension, 5, Clover Corner, and 6, Silver Bluff Brewing Company as public infrastructure for ownership, operation, and maintenance.
I'll second that long motion.
Motion and second, all in favor? Motion carries 3-0.
Thank you, Commissioners. Very important step in the documentation of our infrastructure. Thank you.
Next item is GFA loan approval. Mr. Burrs.
Yes, sir. In September, we came to you with a GFA loan approval for $15 million for the Academy Creek plant, as well as rehabbing existing gravity sewers on the south end of Brunswick and on the south end of St. Simon's Island. At that point, we went to the city and the county to get what was called an environmental services agreement signed, and that process took a while. We went back to GFA, and they said that we did not need the city and the county sign-off anymore, and that we were now eligible for $750,000 in principal forgiveness on the loan. So at their board meeting 2 weeks ago in May, they approved the new loan for us with the $750,000 of principal forgiveness, as well as not having to move forward with the city and the counties signing off on this loan. So the terms of the loan, the exact same. It is a 30-year loan at 2.38%, and the major difference here is the $750,000 in principal forgiveness. That is because of some of the conservation projects we're doing in reducing I&I and energy-saving opportunities at the wastewater plant.
So it's 30-year loan at what interest?
2.38%.
Originally was a 30-year, not a 20-year?
The debt service for this is being paid for out of the R&R once we start drawing this money down.
So what's the estimated payment on this based on getting the $750,000 grant?
It'll be just shy of $700,000. It was $715,000 when we had the $15 million, so it'll be $650,000 to $700,000. But we had budgeted for the full $715,000 in our FY21 budget.
Any questions?
I want to make a statement, Mr. Chairman, if you don't mind. When this original loan came before the city and the county, I think it got passed by the county, and the city did not pass it. City has some questions about default, and they was concerned about if something happened to the loan defaulted, who was sharing the repayment, and the city was going through some financial wars at that time, so therefore that's why I believe it did not pass out of the finance committee. So that's how I'm so glad it came back that we're able to do this loan without the approval of both city and county. So now we can move forward. So but that's basically what happened during that period of time.
Plus with the delay, we got the $750,000 forgiveness.
Absolutely. I don't mind waiting 6 or 8 months to save $750,000.
Well, I guess we did a delay to help us all out, didn't it?
Absolutely.
And it's,
Lesson in disguise.
Go
Mr.
ahead.
Chairman, do you want to do the motions separately and vote on them separately or together? There's two motions here on the,
What's the two motions?
One is to execute the contract, and one is to authorize people to actually sign on the loan draws when we can start the
do them
project.
together.
Do them together.
together? Okay. All right, I move to recommend the full commission that the chairman and executive director be authorized to execute and attest to the appropriate loan documents to execute the GEFA loan CW 2019008 and be so reflected on the attached Schedule F. I also move to recommend the full commission that the chairman, executive director, deputy director, and director of finance be authorized to sign for draws on the GEFA loan CW 2019008.
I'll second.
Motion and second. All in favor? Motion carries 3-0. Next item is USGS Joint Funding Agreement. Mr. Burris.
Yes, sir. For the past 7 years, we have been working with the U.S. Geological Survey to study the migration of chlorides throughout the upper Florida and aquifer, where we have the majority of our drinking water wells. That cause from saltwater intrusion. There is a plume of chlorides in our system that have in the past caused us to shut down the Perry Park well as a drinking water source. They do continuous monitoring on the groundwater systems at multiple sites throughout the county, the USGS does. And in 2018, they produced a study of different modeling results that were conducted from that. As you can see, the contribution amount from joint water and sewer has fluctuated wildly over the past 7 years. There was a ramp up in the 2016, 17, and 18 while they were collecting enough data to do the modeling. So this is to maintain the existing modeling with the infrastructure already, or existing sampling with the infrastructure that's already in place. The USGS does things on a 50-50 match, so the request is for $60,000 from joint water and sewer, and the USGS would be putting up $60,000 to meet the $120,000 cost to maintain the groundwater monitoring. The studies that have shown there's been very little movement in the chloride plume, mostly because withdrawal rates have stayed fairly constant throughout the county. There are large water pools in this area from some of the industries, and the modeling shows that if that changes, we may see some movement in the saltwater plume. However, right now the only one that's been impacted is Perry Park for us as a well, and we feel like it's a good move to continue moving forward with this to give us further information about our source water. And I'll be happy to provide a link to the USGS report if anyone would like to read that.
I'll offer a motion. I move that the Facilities Committee recommend entering into joint funding agreement with USGS in the amount of $60,000 for the continuation of groundwater monitoring in the upper Floridian aquifer.
I'll second the motion.
And I will say that this amount is budgeted in the FY21 budget and the director's office budget.
Motion and second. All in favor? Motion carries 3-0. Next item is a Coastal Club Revised Comprehensive Agreement. Mr. Dominic.
Thank you, Chairman. As y'all will recall, developer Hill Point Residential is developing a 240-unit apartment complex along Cypress Mill Road. There are necessary upgrades to existing JWSC pump stations and wastewater infrastructure has to be completed to provide adequate wastewater service to the development. The developer agreed to improve the sewer infrastructure, which includes a force main upgrade along with a temporary installation of an auxiliary pump at 4056, and also including improvements to pump station 4056 and 4059. The developer submitted an unsolicited proposal, which was approved and then entered into a comprehensive agreement back in September of 2019. The JWSC and the developer now desire to amend and restate the comprehensive agreement to address the separate nature of the projects, the timing, most importantly, the timing of each project and the timing of access to the system. We've gotten cost estimates back for each project. Project 1, which is the force main improvement and temporary auxiliary pump, is just over $99,000. Project 2, which is the pump upgrade at 4056, is right at $75,000. And then Project 3, which includes a wet well improvement to 4059, is estimated to be $215,000. The scope of the work for the projects have not changed. Upon staff's review of the preliminary engineering report and the plans, JWSC attorney has determined that 2 of the projects do not need to be bid pursuant to Georgia law. As stated, 2 of them are under the statutory limit for bidding. The third one will need to be bid. JWSC will solicit and review bids for that project in accordance with the utility purchasing policy. The utility will then select the contractor, and the developer has voiced his election to contract with the contractor directly and manage the project itself. New to this agreement is that the developer will ensure that all 3 projects are substantially complete within 1 year of the amended agreement, thus ensuring that the construction will be complete in a more timely manner. I know that was a concern of the commission previously when entering into these type of agreements. Pursuant to the amended agreement, JWSC will apply credit towards capital improvement fees in an amount equal to the cost estimates and the contract bid price plus any JWSC approved change orders. If the credit amounts are less than the capital improvement fees associated with the apartment complex, the developer will pay the difference to the JWSC, but if the credited amounts are more than the capital improvement fees for the apartment complex, then the developer will receive a transferable credit, transferable to any entity owned by the developer. I believe the developer has an existing project under review that he could transfer those credits to at this time. But importantly, JWSC will not credit in excess of $100,000 regardless of any change orders. The amount credited by the JWSC that may be redeemed by the developer shall be based on the capital improvement fee rates current as of the completion of the project. Upon the developer redeeming the full amount of the credit for the amounts paid for the project, the developer and the remaining property shall be subject to the fees outlined in the then current JWSC rate resolution. In no event shall the developer be entitled to reimbursement or redemption of credit in excess of the credited amounts paid for the project, nor shall any credit be redeemable after a 10-year period from the date of the agreement. Importantly, upon substantial completion of Project 1, which is the force main upgrade and the installation of the temporary pump at 4056, the JWSC agrees to reserve and guarantee sewer capacity and access to the system for the property. This is a change from the prior agreement, but JWSC staff is confident that the capacity issues will be temporarily resolved by the completion of Project 1, which again includes the force main upgrade and the auxiliary pump. And again, similar to the prior agreement, any reservation of capacity shall terminate 10 years from the date of the project. The developer has already started on the apartment complex and will be nearing completion sometime around the end of July and beginning of August, which will be consistent with, the Project 1 will be done well before that time period.
So in essence, he wants to only do one project rather than the 3 projects and connect onto the system. Is that correct?
Prior to having access to the system, yes, sir. But the other 2 projects will be completed and are necessary, but with the temporary pump, and y'all jump in here if I'm saying something wrong, with the temporary pump.
You're all over it.
The temporary pump will provide the capacity needed, but there still has to be upgrades to the wet well to handle additional flows and so forth.
I got a question. Okay, I'm reading on page 2 here, the last paragraph. Say, upon substantial completion of Project 1, JWC agreed to reserve and guarantee sewer capacity and access to the system for the property. In other words, that means that we're guaranteeing that Project 2, 3, the whole project property will have capacity? We're agreeing to that.
The apartment complex will have access to the system, yes, sir. And they're not, they won't have full occupancy immediately, obviously. So there'll be some lag time there.
So this project, is it one complete project, or is it different buildings or whatever?
There's,
You're talking
the
about,
apartment complex there are multiple buildings. I think there's 4, is that right? 4.
but they're all being built right now. It's not phased.
They're all going up at the same time.
Oh, okay.
But he's only completing one phase of what's necessary to serve the whole complex.
That is the projects that we are, or that need to be upgraded, our projects.
It need to be upgraded to handle his entire development.
That's right.
But we just guarantee.
But we're guaranteeing it up front, but we don't have projects 2 and 3 completed. Only project 1 will be completed.
That's right. But they are
So
also,
there's a risk that we might not get projects 2 and 3 completed.
well, they will be bound to complete those projects within 1 year from the execution of this agreement. Yes, sir.
Is it
What's
is
1
it-
year or 10 years?
What's the insurance?
1 year.
What's the insurance for the?
Yeah, I see that. I see it.
How is the developer gonna manage that risk on our behalf that those 3 projects are going to be timely completed?
It's, well, it's-
Charlie, I don't see any skin in the game here, that we would make a reservation of 100% of capacity upon execution of this agreement, but there's no work been started at all on the utility portion of the connection. I understand they'll have a single point of connection for the entire development. And while I'm sensitive to their need to improve their revenue stream by bringing on the various phases of the apartment development, I don't see where they're doing anything to generate confidence that the work will be done timely, because first thing they're asking for an extension of the original agreement. As I understand, they negotiated in good faith for the original agreement, and nothing's been started on site. So what about their track record to date suggests that this agreement would be any better than the original?
well, I don't know that the delay has been caused by the developer himself.
Our agreement's with the developer.
Yes, sir, that's right. And we can certainly, and to add skin in the game, we can certainly add some liquidated damages for any delay in the project.
That's for future delays, though.
Right, if it extends beyond a year, which is what they're contracting for, to complete all 3 projects within 1 year, if they don't do that, we can
I don't
start delaying.
see that I can support that, Charlie. I think they need to have skin in the game for each project. If the commission chooses to agree to this, we need to have liquidated damages for each phase of the project, as they're being called project 1, 2, and 3. It tells me here that the ratepayers are going on record as risk to provide all capacity at the acceptance of this agreement and approval, and the developer has no risk.
Well, actually, the access and capacity is not guaranteed until the completion of the first project, but you're right, there's no skin in the game to complete the second or third project. So we can put timelines on those 2 along with liquidated damages if that's what y'all.
I read in here that upon agreement that we're agreeing to full capacity. So I think this needs some homework done on this, is my view.
Right, well, excuse me, you're right. There's the reservation of sewer capacity for the property is already done on, that's already been done. That was approved with the original agreement. But the access,
I got that.
Yes,
And now you want to replace the original agreement with this one.
yes, sir.
The other agreement goes away in its entirety.
That's right.
Whatever we approve going forward.
Mm-hmm.
What I'm offering to you is I have some difficulty now agreeing to a reservation of 100% capacity. And, in my view, that puts all of the risk on behalf of the ratepayers and puts none on the part of the developer. The developer could connect to our system, and what's to prevent the developer from finishing their project and already had a physical connection to the system. The only recourse we have would be legal.
Yes, sir.
So
The-
in that regard, I can't support this agreement as presented.
We entered into this agreement over 6 months ago, 8 or 9 months ago,
Back in
September.
September. Yes, sir.
And they've not done anything on the utility end of it. And for us to just all of a sudden just approve everything and assume they're gonna get it done eventually, that's not, like Commissioner Duncan said, that's not fair to our ratepayers.
Yeah, I see it's a matter of managing the risk. See, the ratepayers are gonna take on all the risks should we agree to this document as presented, and the developer none. Or this agreement is modified and brought back to us, and we put liquidated damages on project 1, project 2, project 3, based on a specific timeline of each of those. And that's irrevocable. Right now, there is no financial risk related to the utility connection portion. I realize they've got significant capital investment as their, on their project, but you know, the market and their investment folks have decided that's what they want to do. But they're asking us to take all of the utility connection investment and with a promise that they would complete each of these in now what's called project 1, 2, and 3 instead of all of it. So this looks like an agreement for convenience, but puts all the risk on the ratepayers, and I'm not willing to support that, given no track record of positive construction in an effort to get the utility work done.
So would a specific timeline for each project in addition to liquidated damages for each project?
I would be open to supporting that. And not, in my view, that would then mitigate the potential risk to the ratepayers.
Yes, sir, I agree.
Contractor would then be on the hook for completing this.
But
Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is Jason Tate. I represent the developer Hill Point in connection with this. A couple of things to address some of the concerns that I've heard is with respect to the delay in the work. As y'all probably understand, the project, at least originally as originally approved, was somewhat, was really what we found once we submitted the engineering plans. What we found is it was really 3 separate projects that when we submitted our unsolicited proposal, we had kind of consolidated into one big project. But, and Todd can speak better to this because Todd and Jonathan Roberts, who's our engineer, have been working on this. But I think what they realized when the plans came in is that what we were asking to do was really 3 separate projects that Joint Water and Sewer would have undertaken separately. And so the delay in the work up to this point was the original comprehensive agreement required the entire project to go out to bid. Well, at this point, the project has not gone out to bid because what we were doing is we were breaking it down into the 3 smaller projects to really more accurately reflect what I believe how Joint Water and Sewer views the project. So in terms of not doing any work, you know, we haven't been able to move forward with the work and start the work because the work has not been bid yet and the contract's not been awarded. So it hasn't been a product of us not moving forward with that. It's been a project of really working with staff. And I may have the terminology wrong, Todd, so correct me, but we've been working with, there's I guess the improvement or construction staff, and then we also have maintenance staff as well that's kind of reviewed this in order to determine the best way to do those upgrades. And I think collectively, again, the decision that came down to is part of the problem is we were creating too big of a project. We needed to break it down, which is how we got these kind of 3 phases, if that makes sense. Commissioner Duncan, to address your concern about the skin in the game, some of the other revisions that we did make in there, the original comprehensive agreement, as most comprehensive agreements with Joint Water and Sewer, had a the right of either party to terminate the contract with 30 days advance notice. We took that provision out. Under the contract as revised, the developer is absolutely legally bound to complete all three projects. And while the capacity would be permitted, and really what this comes down to is not so much usage as it is certificates of occupancy. The project is currently slated to be done around August 1. We actually have a 9 to 12 month lease out period. So in terms of actual usage, we're looking at approximately 9 to 12 months from August 1 to we're actually using the system. And during that,
You would have no issues with putting milestones on each project and putting up liquidated damages as a part of the terms in an agreement.
no, well,
Good, then we're good with that. I'll support that if that comes back to us
Yep.
in that form. But the current agreement that's being offered is not an agreement, in my view.
but the only issue I would have, and I think we could probably work through this, and I would have to defer to Todd and Jonathan on this, on the timeframes, is the bid process can be, sometimes take longer in terms of, in that respect, and that's part of where we are today, is with respect to that, the bid process, at least, we're somewhat dependent on pulling joint water and sewer to bid it, get the information out, get it back, and then award the contract. Once that is done, then we, as the developer, would step in, enter into the contract, and actually begin the work. So that's the only issue that I would have with the time frame. But I think we could structure it in such a way that the work would be completed within a certain amount of time from the contract award, if something to that effect. Because again, that's something that, in terms of bidding it out, that's something that we have no control over. In terms of liquidated damage.
But your lease out is 9 months, so you've got 9 months to work on to pick those 3 dates, in my view.
Yeah, I mean, once we have sufficient time frames in terms of how long it will take and when we can actually finish the work. The question's not when we start, the question's not when we finish, really, the question's more when we can start. With respect to the force main, if this were to be approved, because now phase 1 and phase 2 no longer have to be bid because they come under the statutory threshold, we've already ordered the materials and are prepared to start on those immediately.
I'm well aware of all of that.
Okay.
And the granularity you're offering is nice, but what I want to see is liquidated damages on specific milestone for completion of project 1, 2, and 3. That's what I'll support. In my view, that releases the ratepayers from the risk of non-performance on the part of the developer.
And that's something, I'm sorry.
Back to us with that, then that's all we got to talk about.
No, and we have no problem. I'll have to clear that with my client. Liquidated damages is not something we've discussed up to this point. We have discussed the prospect of potentially bonding the project as well, but we're open to providing assurances, whatever those may be, to the commission to address any concerns they have about providing access before we finish the project. That's not an issue. Whether it's agreeing to certain milestones, so long as again, and that's kind of that's beyond my depth, to be honest with you, in terms of what those look like. I
have a concern of what you're saying, though. You almost passed the blame on JWSC for delaying the project.
No, not at all.
Well, you did in saying it's 3 projects instead of 1 project. You initially thought it was 1 project, but JWSC assumed there's 3 projects. The bidding has to go through JWSC, all of this. The problem is your engineering plans and specifications have not been completed, and so the project has not been bid. You've had 9 months to get that done.
No,
So now we're having to absorb this and accept something, and we don't have the capacity to do that. And it's putting us on a limb. And so we're going to have to go out on a limb for something that you did not meet according to the original unsolicited proposal that both parties agreed to. Y'all have not met that.
Yeah, and Commissioner, I don't, if I have, or if anyone feels like I've laid the blame at Joint Water and Sewer, that was not my intention. We've worked up to this point, again, I think Todd can speak to this very well with Joint Water and Sewer in terms of getting them what they've asked for. In terms of submitting the engineering plans, we submit, they give comments, we revise, submit back. But the point of that was to say that it's a symbiotic relationship, is that we work hand in hand together in that respect. And while they're dependent on us for certain things, we are dependent on them for certain things as well. Not to say that anybody did anything wrong or different, And again, I know the commission's familiar with the unsolicited proposal process, but the unsolicited proposal process is, we don't look at the master plan, we don't look at what joint water and sewer, how they look at these projects, we look at the upgrades that we would like to make, and we initiate and submit the unsolicited proposal to do the upgrades that we want to do. And I think that's how we did it. We submitted it to them through the unsolicited proposal and to the commission as one big project. And I think once we started breaking it down and talking with joint water sewer, that's when everybody agreed that it would be better served to break it into 3 separate projects, because according to my understanding, the master plan is that is how the totality of the work that we're looking at doing, how joint water and sewer would undertake those projects itself on an individual basis. And so that then required us revising the plans completely different from, again, one big kind of master plan, if you will, down into smaller separate.
But all 3 projects were in the original,
Yes, correct.
so it could have been done at the same time. It did not have to go in 3 separate phases. And now you want to break it out into 3 separate phases. Now, I understand that logically you could maybe do this, but that's not how the unsolicited proposal read at first.
That's correct.
It included all 3 of these,
Correct.
and all 3 are necessary for us to have the capacity to serve your entire development.
That I'd have to defer to the engineers on, but I do believe that is correct.
Commissioners, this was on the agenda for tomorrow's full commission meeting. With some of the feedback we had today, would you feel comfortable if Mr. Tate and Mr. Dorminey could revise this and get it sent out tonight for review, discussing this at the agenda tomorrow so that their timeline doesn't get delayed another month?
Yeah, but I'd like to have some idea on when, not only the liquidated damage clause, but I'd also like to have some dates on when
Yes, sir, I
the
think-
phase is gonna be.
I think
we can
got
put a
to have some
schedule in
further
there.
Discussion looks like, I know you get it ready for tomorrow, but we still probably be discussing tomorrow too as well. 'Cause
Yes,
it
sir.
don't seem like we
Yeah,
are
I
ready
think-
right now.
I think if we just put in dates for completion of each project and have liquidated damages tied to each of those dates, then I think that would satisfy Commissioner Duncan and
I'll support
Chairman.
that.
Okay, and we can do that pretty quickly.
Yeah, and I can't speak for my client, obviously, I haven't spoken to him, but this is something that we have been discussing internally, so I would not envision that being a problem on our end.
I'll make a motion, we table this item.
Well, I think we need a motion to move it forward to the full commission.
But in the motion that it needs to be revised, and that can come before, and specify what the revisions you want, which is dates and liquidated damages.
Right. The motion is fine as written, except with recommendation of approval. You can remove that and put with revision to include schedule and liquidated damages.
Just point of order, he did make a motion to table it, so
Didn't get a second.
didn't get a second yet, but,
So it dies.
right.
Where's the motion in this packet we got?
It's on the last page, yes, sir.
I don't know that we want to pass any motion right now. I think we'll just add this to the agenda tomorrow.
Well, that's essentially what you're doing with this motion, but that's fine, yes, sir.
We don't feel comfortable making a motion on something that,
Okay.
okay?
Thank you, Commissioners.
We move to the discussion section, Water Pollution Control Plant Flows Report. Mr. Burris?
Yes, sir. At Academy Creek for the last month, we have been making some process changes. We have a permit on public notice right now that is going to cause our limits to be much more restrictive than they've been in the past. So if you look at the results, you can see that we are having improvements there, specifically on the ammonia side of things. You'll notice that the effluent flow is lower than the influent flow. That's because of some of the process changes and trying to increase our solids inventory to process the ammonia. And we did have our lowest ammonia for the month since the beginning of 2019 over the month of April. Preliminary results so far in May are even below that, so the process improvements are working. We are well within permit, on all of these parameters. Flow was down at 6.9 on the effluent, which is about half capacity. And then our sludge to the landfill is remaining fairly consistent for the month. I did look at some numbers on our unit costs per million gallons, and with the changes we've made, plus some of the sludge hauling changes we've made, we've reduced our cost at that plant by over $100 per million gallons. So it's about a 25% reduction with some improvements we've made there. So staff's been doing a great job down there at that plant, meeting the new expectations. Things are going very well down there. Did have a 95% BOD removal and 93% TSS removal. And again, as part of the Academy Creek project, we'll be adding filters to this plant, so those removal percentages will increase even higher once the project has been completed. You can see on the flow chart that, the flow graph there, that is mirroring pretty closely to what we saw last year, the first 4 months of the year. At Dunbar Creek for the month of April, 3 million gallons a day going out, which is 75% of the capacity. Everything well within permit limitations there, 99% removal of BOD and TSS at that facility. That facility is being operated very well right now, and staff is, as you can see, not had any problems in there during this reporting period. And then at Southport, the flow has decreased a little bit. We found some I&I issues that were corrected at that plant. So you saw the reduction of about 60,000 gallons a day at that plant, only about 30% capacity. But certainly handling all of that, the flow that we are getting very well down there with 96% removal of BOD and TSS. You will note down at exit 29 for the month, we did not haul any sludge. We have the ability, based off the loadings of that plant, to have quite some storage in the digester, so we haven't hauled sludge for the month, which certainly every time we don't haul sludge, we don't spend money, so.
Are we seeing a significant savings in us hauling our own sludge?
Yes, sir. Previously, we were spending anywhere from $40,000 to $50,000 a month on sludge hauling. We're spending about $14,000 a month now.
Okay.
Whatever came of the contract dispute with the previous hauling firm?
Haven't heard anything in a significant amount of time.
No news is good news.
Yes.
Okay.
Is that a legal term?
Yes. Yes, it is.
That's a good report, Andrew.
Very good operation.
I got one other question. I know we was doing some camera work for the mainland. Also, we did on St. Simon's about water infiltrating into our system. Did that contribute to our savings as well?
It is contributing. You see the flow has went down. Some of that's the return, but we just finished the lining project on Whitlock large diameter gravity, and that has paid dividends with the amount of water getting in. We've also, from the smoke testing and video testing, we found some clean out caps that were off and some random segments of lines where their sinkholes had formed. We've corrected a lot of those. We're working systemically through those, and we're making progress on that. You'll see that the flows are decreasing. Some of that's rainfall, but some of that's because when it does rain, it's not getting as much of it in the system as possible.
What about on St. Simon's?
St. Simon's flows are remaining fairly steady for the last few months. We went through that last year and did all of those corrections that we found, so we did see some impact there. As part of the GFA loan that was approved earlier, 2 of the basins of which the CIPP work will be going on would be 2001 and 2002, which is the south end of the island. That's some older clay lines that will be lined and help eliminate some of that as well. So, yes, we're having very good success with our I&I reduction program.
Does the GFA loan include some sewer rehab on the mainland? Also?
Yes, sir. 4002, 4003, those are, 4002 is drains most of the downtown area. 4003 is the SPLOST project that we have up on K Street that drains sort of the area just north of Gloucester. So those 2 are the 2 largest basins on the mainland, and they will be having targeted rehab there as well.
And we'll be talking about that in the project report in a minute.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'm going to move to the next one, project report. Mr. Klein. I guess first, or Andrew first?
I'll go.
Typical Dan.
I'll go first,
Happy to do.
just for out of.
Shortest hair goes
a sense of.
He wins.
Yesterday, that
He
would have been a
tapped
much
out
closer
yesterday.
race. Yeah, yesterday, that'd be a much closer race. So I will hit a few of these and then turn it over to Mr. Klein. I won't steal his thunder on Highway 99, so I'll let him speak to that one. Ridgewood is one he is doing as well. North Mainland sewer improvements, we discussed the Phase 2 lining project down Whitlock. We still have some manhole rehab that need to be completed on that job. We have the contractor, new project manager from that contractor in town. He is getting things mobilized, getting some manhole adjustments made on grade and some paving work done. So we're seeing movement on finishing that project now, and then we just approved the change order for the engineering on the force main reroute, and we'll be putting that project out to bid within the next 7 weeks. Pump Station 4003 is currently out for bid. We had a pre-bid last week on the 15th. It was our first socially distanced pre-bid attempt, so there were some interesting adjustments, but they worked out quite well. And those bids are due back on June the 3rd. So at our next Facilities Committee meeting, hopefully there'll be a recommendation for moving forward with the rehab of that pump station.
Andrew, a question, please. Sorry to back up, but on the Project 702 North Mainland, so we have committed about half of the funding on this project. So can you share with us approximately what we committed on each of the phases, 1, 2, and 3? Construction to engineering.
Yes, sir. So we've got 7.5 left out of the original budget, close to right at 15 million. Phase 2, the contract was 2.5 million for the rehab work and a couple $100,000 for engineering and inspection and everything, maybe 100,000 on that portion of it. And so that's in the $2.5 to $3 million range, and then it was about $4 million for the Phase 1. Phase 3 is actually the pump station upgrades and the force main upgrades. We're budgeting, we got about 7.5 left on that, which we think we can get the project done for. We're about 2.5 on the pump station portions and $5 million on the force main upgrades.
So in terms of construction work, we're well engaged on Phase 1, Phase 2, and 3, nearing completion on engineering for those two.
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
And this happens to be, based on our project list, the second largest of all of our projects, Cabinet Creek being the largest.
Yes, sir.
So those two together represent 80 or 90% of our total construction plan.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Talked about 4003, the Canal Road to Glencoe water main. We are finishing up survey along Glencoe. We just got the approval to move forward with the engineering for the water main portion down Canal. Once the Glencoe survey is completed, we will start installing that pipe in-house. That is to run a 12-inch water main under the back gate of Fletsy to connect to the existing connection at Canal Road. And then as part of the SPLOST project, funded separately, but it's during the same construction period, we'll run the line down Canal. Let's see, FEMA hazard mitigation, we had a good call with FEMA the other day. They have secured, as part of the original project, we are getting some transfer switches. GEMA is purchasing a pool of portable generators that they will own. They have secured those, and there will be 5 of them stored in Glynn County for use when needed. They're spreading them out throughout the entire state. So those have been purchased and my understanding have been delivered. So we're working through that process, but we're getting together bid documents on the transfer switches.
Where are they going to be housed and who's maintaining them?
GEMA is maintaining them. I haven't been able to determine exactly where they're going to be located at, but they will be handling all the maintenance and everything. Magnolia and L Street, I will leave for Mr. Klein. The oxygen system rehab, we are finalizing punch list items on that. We've got a couple of small things that are supposed to be completed this week on that. We've since paid out all but about $5,000 of that since the April 30th. Pump station 4021, we've been working with our contractor to try to negotiate a lower price on that with some scope changes. Based off of what we've gotten back, we feel like we need to rebid that project with the reduced scope, so we're putting together the documents to get that bid back out. The wastewater plant rehab at Academy Creek, that $15 million includes the sewer rehab work that we just discussed. But the plant project, the engineering is complete. We are starting the process for contractor pre-qualification, and that project will be put out to bid soon thereafter. So hopefully we'll have bids back this summer on that project. 4105, I'll leave for Mr. Klein. Altama and Sea Palms, the contractor has mobilized and lining pipe in Sea Palms as of today. They were supposed to do a 700-foot shot on Palm today, so they will have no problems completing the Sea Palms project prior to the Glynn County paving schedule. So that contractor is in town taking care of that. They were going to get started on the lining yesterday, but they had a slight equipment problem that they got corrected, and they started today. Coastal Club, Academy Creek, we just did the Academy Creek roof repair. We just did the walkthrough on that, couple of minor items. We were having a delay getting the access ladder, some delivery delay, but we got that taken care of. Demery Road, I will leave to Mr. Klein. Sea Palms waterline rehab, you will see our internal crews mobilizing in Sea Palms to put casings under the main roadways that are going to be paved. They will be mobilizing on that in the next week. That way we can, at a later date, come back and fix those lines, but not have to disturb the paving. We're going to put the casing in the ground. We have existing pipe on hand that will serve as the casing. ARCO area water and sewer extensions, we've got the RFP out for engineering for that. Those are due back on June the 16th. So hopefully we'll have those for you very soon. Brockington sewer rehab, they completed the point repair portion of that work yesterday, and they will be coming back to complete the lining through the new point repair section. Apparently they did something well because one of the residents brought them cookies yesterday. So very rarely do you get cookies on a contractor, so very pleased with that result. Just unfortunate that we didn't have an inspector on site when the cookies were there. So the galvanized replacement projects, that is an in-house project that Water Distribution is doing. They so far have replaced, that's a typo, should be 720 feet of 2-inch and 336 feet of 1-inch in the Riverview subdivision on the island. They're completing 3 more roads in there. So that project will be, in Riverview, will be completed. They'll be moving to another area on the galvanized. And the Tillman water main replacement project I skipped 4118, 119. That's an in-house project. We've ordered everything. We're just waiting on it to get here. Georgia Power's got to relocate 1 power pole for us, which they are prepared to do. And the Tillman water main replacement project, we have bought the material, some of the material for that project, but given the ongoing work on L Street, we were trying to avoid having water outages so close together with the recent tie-in on L Street, so we'll prioritize that moving forward very shortly. So with that, you'll see that our project report has gotten much longer since we approved a year's worth of projects at the beginning of this year. However, that just means we've got a lot of progress going on for our systems. And I will turn the rest of them over to Mr. Klein.
Thank you, sir. Just a few to clean up here. State Route 99, the project's essentially complete. A few minor little punch list items to finish up. We were hoping to have a final pay app satisfied before this meeting, but didn't quite get it in there. Definitely for next meeting it'll be done. Still looking for, I know Mr. Burr is looking to coordinate a possible event for us to showcase that successful completion of that project. So we're really excited to have that one complete. Ridgewood.
Is there anybody still alive that started this project?
When it started, it has some history, yeah. So we're, again, very excited to see it close. Everybody is.
Yeah, it's a good project to complete.
Very good project, thank you. Ridgewood Water Production Facility, I'd like to thank our commissioners for attending that. We had an event out there. Got to watch the tank being wrapped with a reinforcing wire. It's kind of a unique process with Crom and other companies do the pre-stressing type reinforcement. So really thank you for that. We had a good, safe day. Had a lot of good discussions out there. Ridgewood, at December of this year, it's going to be complete. We're doing very well on schedule, so that project's going very well.
We're actually ahead of schedule. The contractor doesn't want to give us an expedited schedule because he's afraid something might happen, but we're actually ahead of schedule on that project right now.
Doing very well on schedule. Magnolia Water Improvements, just an update, a little update I can give on that. I understand the city's negotiating with the low bid contractor on that one. We're waiting for them to complete that. We have requested to see if we can go ahead and proceed with the water portion of the project. The city engineer said that they may be receptive to that, but they're having to go back to the engineer to see how they can split it up and phase it. So we're waiting more information on that one. We'll keep you updated. L Street Phase 1 is essentially complete, probably some minor punch list items that the city's working through on the paving and the storm. As far as the water, though, we've been done for some time. Water's actually proceeding in Phase 2 now, along the outside fence to Pinova. And they've probably got about a little less than 1,000 feet of new water line installed in there. Nothing major to report there, issues-wise. It's pretty congested with existing gas mains and things out there, so it's, but it's going well. Nothing out of the ordinary. So there is a detour. The contractor has a nice little detour set up, so folks can come down through Goodyear and whatnot, still negotiate through the new section. And I'm not trying to remember when they said that they would have, I think they're going to open up the sections from MLK on down to completely open up the roadway to passage. But I don't have a date as when that's going to happen. So we'll stay tuned. Looking at pump station 4105 basin expansion. So we did see 75% drawings from the design engineer on that one. That is a challenge in design as far as permitting goes. There is 2 crossings or 2 railroads we're crossing under, which is part of their design scope. And they are working with the railroads to figure out limits of right-of-way and what's expected and casing extensions and things. Some details. But to my knowledge, the survey should be wrapping up very shortly on that. What they did to kind of expedite the design process, they used LiDAR imaging or LiDAR topographic data to expedite a proposed scope. So once they get the survey data in, they'll drop that in with True Topo and adjust accordingly. So.
We don't have the permit then?
No, sir. And the way we're doing that project is pretty much being designed to be shovel-ready. Sans the railroad permits. You know, we'd go ahead and set up probably with the permits, but the permits are pretty expensive. I don't know that I would go ahead and obtain the permits until we're ready to move forward with construction to bid it out. So we would go ahead and get everything semi or
We're
pre-approved.
designing the force main improvements on that section to be ready to construct when needed, but they will not be going in immediately. We're doing the pump station upgrades, but the permit for the force main to go through the railroad isn't needed at this time. We'll have everything prepared for when we need to, but not paying for that permit right now.
How much is the permit? Just
It can
curious.
be expensive. They can be 10 to 20,000. I mean, it just depends.
Do they charge an annual fee, the railroad, for
They
that?
do, Commissioner, they do. They, we get, I don't know, if they have all of ours on record that they charge us every year, but there are a handful that we do have to send in a small check for every year.
We pay right now about $8,500 a year to the railroad for assets in there right away.
I think it was a period of time where it went where they weren't billing.
Yeah,
Somebody checked somewhere
It used to
that-
be in the planning and construction budget, and somehow it got moved to mine, and I'm not real sure how that happened, but.
So, yep. Last project of note here, Dimmer East Beach Roundabout, Glynn County project. I'm sure everybody's aware of the location of that. Going well, as far as we can tell. Joint orders kicked back all as RFIs. We, contractor has questions, and we of course have a presence out there for inspection or observation of our infrastructure. And we press hard for official RFIs to go through the county and their engineer and whatnot. We kick them back as quickly as possible, and everything's going as smoothly as I can tell with that one.
Question, please.
Yes, sir.
When do we expect the significant portion of our infrastructure to be put in place? Or have we?
With the Dimmery Roundabout? I will get you a revised, an updated schedule on that. I think as far as their movement, they had a lead time of a couple of weeks for the HDPE structure. I would assume within probably 30 days, we'll have the majority of our infrastructure.
Because they're doing the utility improvements prior to doing any of the roadway improvements.
They're mixing storm with water. I mean, the water goes very quickly, and then the gravity sewer is going to take a little bit of time. But we've actually been able to, they had to do some adjustments in the alignment of the infrastructure out there due to some trees and things that they wanted to salvage. And it actually, we were able to work with them to save some footage on some force main. I think we saved a couple hundred feet of force main. Made a water adjustment. We saved a little bit of water, keeping an existing water line. We were able to save 50 feet or so of water. So it's actually heading, you know, in a preferred direction of savings rather than change order additions. But I'm hoping 30 to 45 days we should have majority of water and sewer infrastructure in and out. So, thank you.
If I'm not mistaken, the county's timeline on the whole project was 4 months.
It was very aggressive.
Very aggressive schedule, so.
Very aggressive. And they're not working this weekend. They closed it to construction over the Memorial Day weekend, so site will be safed up and no contractors on site.
I have a general question.
Yes, sir?
The cure-in-place process,
Yes.
how do you determine using that versus something, replacement or something? Just a kind of a general engineering, put you on the spot a little bit.
No, not a problem. That's a great question. You mean as far as versus open dig?
Yes.
Location, disturbance to, you know, traffic, residents. We always look for a trenchless, we call it trenchless option if we can. It's not always a viable option, but certainly in the cases of sea palms and things, Altama and whatnot. Like for instance, we have several crossings on Altama that we're going to be lining. We by no means want to close down lanes of Altama.
And one reason, one situation we can't use that in is you got a major offset joint.
Yeah.
So
Right,
you might have to dig down and fix that, or a particular tap that's faulty. But if it's just age of pipe that has caused some cracking of the pipe, most of the time we can line that pipe, especially the old clay and ductile pipes, that sticks pretty well to that.
And that really extends the lifespan of the pipe.
It does. You've essentially got a new pipe. You're starting over with a new pipe inside of the old host pipe.
The CIPP folks will tell you they'll guarantee at least 50 years of the new lining. However, it hasn't been done for 50 years, so.
It's kind of like the microfiche,
Yes,
right?
yes.
Microfiche, yeah.
When you're archiving documents, right?
Yes, yes.
Todd, tell him when we do pipe bursting too.
Great. So another trenchless option, or you know, kit in the toolkit there is called pipe bursting. That's where you use the host pipe. If you need to upsize or replace, or generally if you're going to replace, typically you may upsize as well. You'll actually run a feeder stack of rods up through an existing hose pipe, reach out in between two manholes, go in one manhole and out the other. You'll reach up and you'll grab the pipe, and you have a pneumatic head on the front that leads the new pipe in. It actually hammers and breaks up the old pipe, splits it if it's, you know, depending on the material, if it's ductile or something like that, it'll split it and push it off to the side and pull the hose pipe in it. If it's transite or anything on, you know, friable material like vitrified clay or anything like that, it'll just simply fracture it and push it off into the surrounding soil, and you slide the new pipe right in. It's a really cool, one of those, I wish I'd have thought of it things.
YouTube research for tonight.
Oh, but sometime I'd like to see that.
YouTube's a great resource, of course. You can find a million different videos on it. It's very, we actually, in-house, Systems Pumping and Maintenance has the ability to go up to 12-inch and pipe burst 12-inch. They've done a decent amount of gravity with that methodology. So, and you're bringing in a brand new pipe, so you're starting fresh with lifespan.
Thank you, I appreciate it. You know, you ever see the juggler, the guy that spins the plates on the sticks?
Sure.
You feel like that sometimes?
Oh man, that's what's fun about it.
Only the contractors are spinning them, but you gotta make sure they're staying there, don't you?
Yes, sir. Good analogy.
We certainly keep Todd's group busy. Last year, we hired a new project manager, internal, Jason Vo. He's been a big help for Todd and myself to try to take some of that workload off of us with the amount of projects we've got ongoing. So
I believe I met him, yeah.
he's been a real asset for us.
So we have the in-house capability of pipe bursting, but we don't have in-house for CIPP.
That's correct. Yeah, the reefer truck, I mean, you have to keep the material cold, and it's a very
I saw that.
touchy process. But, yeah, so
They make it look simple on YouTube, but
they do.
it's not.
They do.
If you want something else to research, there's an electroscan thing where they test the CIPP by sending an electric charge down. That's pretty cool too. We can't afford to do it, but it's a really neat process.
Definitely. If any of the commissioners are interested in these type of things,
I
especially.
have one question.
Yes,
I'm
sir.
sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but
Let me- yeah.
Tell me, when are we gonna be able to do the Arco area water and sewer extensions? I'm reading through the line here, the chart here. Any time phrase on that? You know, once we get it bidded out and whatever, about how long it'll take us to do all that?
Was that 180 day?
Yes, sir. The engineering, we've got 150 days on the engineering contract. That would be awarded hopefully at either the June or July meeting. So the engineering should be completed prior to the end of the year. And then hopefully in next year's capital budget, we will fund
So we're not gonna complete this year at all, you know what you're saying? It's gonna be-
just the engineering this year, construction next year.
All right.
Road area also.
No, sir, we're going to do that separately. We were trying to space out some of the
We're doing Arco first.
ARCO first, and then within the next month or so, we'll put out an RFP for engineering on the Community Road Key Circle Drive area.
That's it. And that's the last on our chart, our schedule chart down there, the very last one at the end. And I think that was probably just penciled in with 365 days worth of work.
Right.
As a placeholder, but it's definitely on the radar to get it done. All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Any commissioners have any other questions? Comments? Meeting's adjourned. Thank you.